Action.
Welcome to Sunday Brunch with Ben and Ned. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Ned. And hi, Marty. Our guest today is Dr. Marty Hart, chiropractic kinesiologist, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Here in Independence. And
Thank you for being here.
Of
good
course,
friend
thank
of
you for
mine.
having me, fellas.
Thanks for being on the show, Marty.
Yeah, of course.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into chiropractic work, fitness, health in general? How did all that start?
Sure. So growing up, my mom was somewhat naturally minded, so I've been a chiropractor since I was young. But I never really thought anything about it. It just seemed the thing you do.
Mm-hmm.
And then growing up in sports, so I was always into fitness, nutrition, things like that. And so I started working out and going through college. I decided to pursue an exercise science degree. And as I got out and became a personal trainer and ended up falling into a corrective exercise specialist role. And from there, I worked with a lot of clients who had pain issues and using just mostly exercise and rehab. And that worked okay, but it didn't quite get them out of pain. And so I decided to pursue chiropractic, which got me to where I'm at now.
Cool. I need to point out, though, this is groundbreaking to have a chiropractor on the show. It's also groundbreaking that we're drinking beer. This is the first Sunday Brunch where we...
I was just going to hope people didn't notice.
This is a healing essential...
Right, it's a healing elixir, right?
Yes.
At least they used to call it that.
Yeah. The doctor says 1 or 2 beers a day is good for you.
Yeah.
Then I'm doing really, really well. Every day.
That's right. I'm sure 10 is even
Yep.
better. Yeah.
Now, if 1 or 2 is good for you, 10 must be awesome. Now, I have a question about chiropractic.
Yes.
Jumping right into it.
Sounds good.
I like to crack my own neck every now and then. I've been to chiropractors, and they usually they tell you you can't do it to yourself. Now, is that just, so they still have a job?
Priest tell me the same thing one time, actually.
Is that for job security there, or is there a reason why?
So to a certain degree, I mean, every profession has its kind of thing they want you to not do because they want you to come to see them. But on the other end, also, when you take your joints through the range of motion like that, and some of them pop and some of them don't, the ones that tend to already be hypermobile, too mobile, those are the ones that are going to pop and crack. The ones that actually need to move, they're still going to stay stuck a lot of times. But I always tell patients, if you're just going through the basic range of motion that's natural and you get some cracks and pops, it's fine. But if you're having to push yourself and torque yourself, then you probably need to worry.
Okay, so I like to do this one.
Yeah.
Not so good?
No, not so good.
Don't you see? I already learned. I'll never do that again. While he's watching.
Yeah.
So tell me about movement, fitness, and how big a role that plays in a person's overall health and well-being.
Sure, so ideally, the human body is designed to move. That's why we have joints, we have bones, nerves, that's how you interact with the world. Otherwise, you'd just be a blob and life would get boring. And so the body designed itself, or whoever designed it, to the fact that movement actually sends signals to the brain to nourish the brain. So it works as a perfect feedback loop. The more you will move, the more healthy your brain and nervous system is. The more you can move, the happier you are, the better you learn, the more engaged you can be. And it's a perfect loop like that. The more you do it, the better it gets.
And your practice, specifically the chiropractic kinesiology, has to do with the flow of energy and your neural pathways and that kind of thing. Tell me a little bit more about how does that differ from a standard chiropractor?
Sure, so the standard chiropractor uses adjustments, kind of forcing the joint through a range of motion. And that's needed sometimes, but I find a more gentle approach where you take the movement, the way the joints, the muscles, the bones move, and the energy and the nervous signals, you find out where they're imbalanced at, and you begin to correct the imbalances. And a lot of time that has to do with muscle work, which is where the kinesiology comes in, getting the muscles to move right. But it can also do with acupuncture points, getting those to move right. Reflex points, dealing with organs or even reflexology. Going through the joints, you can adjust them at times, and other times you need to softly move them while the patient moves. So that way the body will accept the treatment versus forcing it into it.
So you're not the chiropractor who jumps in there and just needs to hear the crack. I just need to hear it. I need it to make that noise. Got it. No, you're not that.
That has nothing to do with me. No, if patients like it, I'll use it. But for the most part, I try to go with a gentle route.
A lot less aggressive method.
And the body can accept it that way instead of, the adjustment works sometimes because you have to force it in there. But I find that if the person can accept it, and the body can accept my treatment, it's going to incorporate it in much faster and much more long term, rather than in and out, it's going to stay because it's had time to take it in.
Sure.
I'm being very aware of my posture during today's show. I find
Yeah.
alignment here.
That tends to happen the same way you want to make sure you brush your teeth before the dentist.
I'm in my early 40s, and I noticed in my 20s and 30s I ate a lot, but I also exercised a lot. Talking about movement, I
Sure.
taught a lot of fitness and martial arts classes, so I was always active. And then in my late 30s and early 40s, I continued to eat the same amount
Sure.
and didn't continue to be
The
as
movement
active.
really scaled back.
And somehow I bought into this, and maybe you can touch on this, this idea, the concept that I've either created, manifested in my own thinking, or I bought into the collective consciousness that men and women in their 30s, 40s, the metabolism is going to slow down anyway, especially if the activities start to cut down. So, by the way, over the past month or so, I've become a lot more active. I feel it myself. I feel a lot lighter. And if you go back to our previous shows and watch these shows, it'll be one of those like selfie things. Watch Ned get thinner.
There you go.
I'm just wasting away to nothing here. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the metabolism and age?
Sure, metabolism and aging. So of course there is some cellular things that happen as we age where you do have some hormonal changes, your testosterone goes down, your thyroid function changes, which slows it down, but it's much less than people want to say. The human body is much more adaptable than we give it credit for, which is why you get specimens like Jack LaLanne. He kept it up, and so he didn't have an issue. He might not have been as muscular when he was 90 as when he was 20, but he was still fit.
And he could keep it up well into his 90s, I understand.
Right, yeah, he's still doing it.
Something to aspire to.
Right, and I
Fitness.
think...
Sure.
Oh, goodness, you got me on that one.
Well, you touch on a good thing here when you talk about the kind of collective belief around aging. And we've talked about this before on the show with other guests. The role that thinking and belief and the mind plays in your health and wholeness and just in your body. What is your experience on that, or your take on that?
So my thought, and I kind of call that resurrecting the body, and so every 7 years or so we have a whole new body. Bones, muscles, joints, nervous system, organs are all brand new, and it's happens in layers, but by the time 7 years goes on, you're brand new. So what that tells me is if you feel the same as you did 7 years ago, you still have the same pain, the same aches and problems, you didn't do anything mentally, physically, or spiritually to change it. And so what we have is a field we create, the morphogenetic fields, what Rupert Sheldrake calls it, where you don't change the programming in that field, and so it keeps recreating the same issues. And so, including in the aging, so when you can begin to change your beliefs, and then when you change your beliefs, they'll change your behaviors, you can begin to change the way you age.
It's tricky though, changing those beliefs.
That's the idea.
Especially in community when there's an accepted belief in the group. I mean, I think we all know people that are up in years, elderly people who just assume that you're going to be given X number of prescriptions and you're going to have to take pills for your blood pressure and
Your eyesight
and
is
your-
going to go at a
yeah.
certain age.
all these things are just expected, and so aches and pains and health problems and doctor's visits and all these things are just kind of culturally accepted to be normal, but it doesn't have to be.
Right. Normal could be the stereotypical Jack LaLanne. That's very possible.
If we could just believe it.
Right. Yeah.
We had a guest a couple of weeks ago, Jane, lovely Jane Van Benthusen, and she said, and the same kind of idea, the thoughts, the actions, the beliefs, all of it tying together, and it gets into a cycle.
Right.
I believe she said she had to lose 20, 30 pounds before she felt comfortable to start working out. Interesting, right? For a lot of us. So where do you suggest people kind of launch into triggering this cycle with the thoughts, with the actions, with the, kind of where along the way?
Sure. And so my thought is there's different type of people. And so you have to first identify who you are. There's some people who want to go on the most extreme detox diet, start me in the gym 5 days this week, and I'm going to do the best by jumping in the pool, right? And so that's not very many people, but there are some. And so if that's you, that's great. But there's a lot of people who will sit in a parking lot in a gym every day for a month, too scared to go in. And so for those people, I think the best thing you can do is to start with the thoughts and the beliefs. And if you can attack those via various methods, journaling or what have you, whatever you're going to do, to begin to attack them, that's the best way to start, because like we said, the beliefs create the behaviors. It's very hard to go backwards, starting with behaviors to create your beliefs, because you have to overcome all your programming. So if you can start with attacking the way you think about it, talking to your self-critic, beginning to use things like affirmations to get you moving, then you can begin to create the new behaviors much more easily.
Awesome. A lot of us in the Unity or New Thought movement, and I don't claim to speak on behalf of anyone other than myself. The wording we use, sometimes we just pay attention to the wording, not to become a languaging Nazi, but it is helpful to notice if we're using words like, oh, I can never do that, or oh, I'm always going to be overweight, or I'm always, pay attention to those words, and maybe it's more helpful to start using phrases like, well, for the past 3 years, this is what has happened. For the past period of time, I have not yet been able to do this.
Right.
But that doesn't mean but now I can, or yes, now I can. I can picture myself exercising. I can get up and do one push-up. I can go take a walk, a lap around, and start. So start
Right.
with some words, with some intentions. And for me, as you see me slimming down, I've started easy back into this regimen of exercise. Just any movement, anything, getting up, getting in there, doing something.
We need to start a hashtag campaign, watching Ed get ripped. on Twitter.
I think we get a good
You guys
following.
can check it out.
Watch Ned get ripped. But that has more than one meaning.
Could start a whole channel.
And the double entendre is half the fun.
Yeah, so we're getting into some great stuff here, and I want to talk more about some of this, possibly in the second half of the show. You have anything you want to touch on before we go to break?
And sorry, yes, Ben, because you were doing a great job of segueing us to the end of.
I was
to
getting into
throw
the
us to the. I'd like Marty to plug at least his website, or where can people in this first segment for people. But you better come back for the second segment too. But let's let him. How can people contact you?
Yeah, we're revamping our online presence. So right now you can get a hold of us at drhartchiropractic.wordpress.com. Feel free to jump on the blog and email us on there.
Hart Chiropractic on Facebook.
As well, Hart Chiropractic on Facebook, yes.
And now what were you going to say, Ben?
Oh, I was going to say, we're getting into some great stuff, and we're going to talk more about it right after this short break.